Hello and welcome to Dominate Digital. My name's Pedro, and over the next half an hour I'm going to be teaching you how to instantly boost your engagement on Instagram. This mini course will walk you through how to optimize your profile, how to start growing your Instagram page, and how you can start to generate leads and sales for your business. But before we go any further, I want to make one thing very clear, and that's that I'm not professing to be a guru or to know it all. I'm simply just going to be sharing my experiences and the experiences of my clients to illustrate the potential of the platform and what you can do to dominate online. So I suggest that you eliminate all your distractions, you tuck yourself away in a nice quiet room, and you get ready to take some notes. Hopefully you draw some value from this and you enjoy it. One more thing before we go any further: if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest digital marketing guidance, and also leave a like to show your excitement for this video. Let's jump right in, shall we? So Instagram is a platform with over 1 billion active users, 500 million of which are daily active users, which is crazy, right? That just shows that there are a lot of people that you could be targeting through this one marketing channel. But obviously, you don't want to target them all. You need to be intentional with who you're reaching, because ultimately you have an ideal client and you need to be marketing to them to ensure that you're being productive with what you're doing on the platform and not just trying to cast a wide net and hope to catch anything, because that isn't productive at all. So what steps can you take to actually start to grow? Well, first of all, you need to make sure that you're optimizing your Instagram profile. What does that comprise of exactly? Well, let me explain. So on Instagram, there are several things you can do to optimize the profile. So if we say that this, for example, is the screen on your phone, you'll have your picture here, your name here, your bio below, okay, and then you'll have some highlights, and then the feed where you have your posts. So we'll talk about the feed later, because there are quite a few things that come before that. So the first thing is your profile picture, your display picture. Now, you want to make sure this is as clear and as on brand as possible. So if you're displaying a logo, for example, we don't want any low pixelated, low quality or small graphics. We want it as clear, as big, as high quality as possible, and with the branding that you use for your business, so that when people see that photo, they are able to sort of relate it to what you do and who you are. Alternatively, if you have a picture of yourself, let's say you're a creator, or you're trying to establish your business through you and you are the brand, then you could have a photo of yourself, and then you could have a solid color in the background that acts as the branding behind your business, so the colors that you use within the branding. So that's the profile picture, but then you've also got the name. Now, for example, Dominate Digital, okay, let's pretend this is Dominate Digital. We have digital marketing agency written here. And it's not just because it looks nice, it has a purpose. Now, the purpose is that this is a key word, it's a key phrase. And because I'm using this, it's going to tell Instagram's algorithm, hey, this is what I do, or this is what I'm known for, or hey, get me ranking on this particular keyword or phrase. Now, although that may not happen sort of immediately, as your profile starts to grow, you will start to rank. So you want to try and make sure that your name contains some sort of keyword behind your product, your services, or your offering, so that it's as clear as possible that that is what you do before people read any further or look at your profile any further. Now we need to talk about the bio, because this is where I see most users make mistakes, okay? And the reason for this is because they usually put something like their slogan, or they put a few words, or they take a real self-centered approach. And you want to be doing the opposite. You want to be building trust, establishing yourself as the authority, and you also want your audience to take some form of action within this as well. So what I tend to do, or what I tend to advise to do rather, is to have some information on there that clearly sort of hits these three key points. Okay, so for example, You could say that you have worked with X amount of businesses, and that will establish that trust because it shows that you know what you're doing and that you've proven it to work. You could also add your solution in here, so what you offer and what it helps tackle, or what it solves as a problem for your intended audience. You could also have your locations in there, so the locations that you cover, or your address, your business address, the times that you're open. So basically the most important information about your business, and that doesn't mean like how many awards you've won or how amazing your business is, but rather the information that your audience is going to be looking for, and you want to make it sort of as clear as possible in the bio so they don't have to look for it. Make sure that you're covering some of those things in your bio, but also have a clear CTA, call to action. So if, for example, you're offering a free strategy call, like we do, we offer an initial strategy call, we would click the link below to book your initial strategy call, your free strategy call. Because that is telling your audience, this is what I want you to do, okay? And then you can obviously have your link below it, but that way, you're clearly giving your audience a task to complete. You're giving them direction and purpose, and it incentivizes them to take that action. And that is essentially how you would, at a basic level, optimize your profile. But we can take it a step further in terms of optimizing your marketing space. You also have the highlights. So obviously we sort of briefly mentioned that when I drew this little picture, but let's actually clearly explain what the highlights are, the purpose of them, and what you can do with them. So the highlights essentially are an archive of your stories that you've previously uploaded, and they feature as a portrait-styled sort of graphic or photo or illustration on your feed. So you want to make sure, first and foremost, that you're doing this in portraits. Okay, if you're adding videos, for example, in portraits, okay, so that it's optimized for the platform that you're using. That's another thing that's really, really important. Every platform's different, and you need to utilize its strengths and the way it was designed to make sure that you're thriving on them. Your highlights can be a place where you promote your offering, so that could be one highlight. And you can continuously add and remove as you wish to do so. You know, these are adjustable, and that's the beauty of this, as opposed to the feed, for example, where it's sort of your images are there unless you archive them or delete them. So with this, you can continuously be readjusting, adding, deleting, etc. as you see fit. So your offering is something that you can add within there. You could be advertising what it is that you do, your product or your service. Then you could also show a behind the scenes look into your business. It's called social media for a reason. Okay, people don't just want to know what it is that you do. People want to see you doing it. People are nosy. People want to get an understanding of what it is that you do day to day. Even if you don't think they're interested, it's still worth sort of testing something like the behind the scenes highlights out, just to sort of, you know, add a bit of personality as well to your profile. Because again, that's what it's about. It's about being personal, being different. Okay, you're not like the big brands. You can't just, you know, put like a photo of your product and everyone's going to buy it and be interested and engage. You need to create the incentive for engagement and the incentive for interest behind your offering. So behind the scenes is a great way to do that. Another good thing to do is FAQs. Now, FAQs would allow you to start to objection handle, okay, before anyone's even inquired. So if anyone has any commonly asked questions within your industry, I'd research those and maybe create a bunch of FAQs. And you can do that through videos, so you can record yourself answering these questions physically, or alternatively, you can make some graphics as well that answer those questions, but definitely something to consider. Another thing is testimonials. Testimonials are golden because they are social proof. They are essentially establishing you as the professional in what you're doing. I would always have these as videos, okay? Now the reason that I would have testimonials as videos is because it's even stronger than photos, because people are actually able to see and hear firsthand what other people have to say about your offering. And that's really, really important because that builds trust. It establishes you as the authority that's able to provide the solution effectively, and not just someone who is attempting to make sales or providing solutions for the sake of it. That's one space that you can kind of start to optimize, one opportunity. What's the other? Well, it's your stories. And I love Instagram stories because they provide an opportunity to make off-the-cuff content that is really quick, really snappy. It doesn't need too much forward planning because stories go within 24 hours. So if you're not sort of perfect, it doesn't really matter. It's more just to get your face and your business at the forefront of people's minds so that they remember that you're there and so that they can keep up to date with what you're doing. Because again, that will build interest, that will generate more engagement. As a rule of thumb, I would say create 3 stories a day, okay? And the reason for this is because any more, people are likely just going to skip, because you're bombarding them and they're not going to be too interested. So between 1 and 3 stories a day, okay, 3 would be what to aim for. But when it comes to stories, you want to be utilizing the features that they have within the stories. Okay, so you've got loads of interactive features. You've got sliders. You've got polls. People can ask you questions. You can do Q&As. You've got a multitude of things. You can even do a quiz on there. And that can be really powerful because, again, it's incentivizing engagement. Yeah, and you want people to engage. That is how you're going to start to snowball. That's how you're going to start to see growth, because it shows and demonstrates that interest behind your offering or your business in general. And ultimately, you need that interest to have people to then want to buy from you. One more thing to mention about highlights that I forgot to mention. Make sure you add a very clear name to this highlight so that it's visible and people know what it is that they're clicking on, and also a good thumbnail as well for your highlight. So obviously it displays as a circle, so you can upload it as, say, your story, but you want to keep it sort of within that there, so that when it kind of goes onto your highlight, you can clearly see what it says. Clarity is very, very important. You don't just want some blurry picture, some random picture of your product. You want it to, for example, to say product, or if it's a photo of your product, to make sure that it fits within there, within that frame there, so people can clearly see what it is that they're clicking on. Okay, so now let's talk about your feed. We've briefly discussed how your feed shouldn't be a place where you sell, and we've explained what you can do instead. But let's go a little bit deeper. So we've talked about all the optimization opportunities, but when it comes to the feed, you want to also optimize this to be aesthetically pleasing, because ultimately Instagram is that kind of platform. Before sort of the shift towards short form content, Instagram was always about being aesthetically pleasing, looking visually pleasing for your audience, so that they kind of feel the need to scroll some more, right? But you also want to, as I said, limit selling. Doesn't mean that you can't have sales oriented posts, okay? You can. Okay, but there's a clear distinction between constantly just posting pictures of your products or your offering and subtly sneaking that in as part of a strategy. Okay, so C is all about strategy. How do you develop a strategy? This is something I get asked all the time. How can you make an Instagram strategy? What does that even mean? That means intentionally posting things onto your feed that have a clear objective behind them. So we discussed, for example, that your feed can be a place where you educate and where you add value and where you entertain. But you have to go a step further than that. So let's say you're making an entertaining post. Okay, this entertaining post will take some format. Okay, format is also really important. You have different formats on Instagram. You have carousels, which are sort of a collection of photos or images. You have a reel, you have a photo, like a static image, and you also have infographics, okay, and illustrations as well, which obviously is also sort of similar to a photo, but it's different in what it can sort of add in terms of value for your audience. So let's say we're taking an entertaining post, okay, so that's what we're doing. That's kind of how we're going to get people to engage. So that's almost kind of like the engagement metric here, an entertaining post. Then we have the format, so we're going to say a reel. So this is your creative format. We then want to establish an objective to this post. So what kind of objectives can you have? Well, you could have people clicking a link in a bio, okay, and the idea is outbound clicks. Or you could be getting people to DM you with inquiries. Again, that's obviously generating interest behind your offering. It could be that you want people to follow your page for more updates, okay, and the idea is engagement, and that's the objective behind the post. It could be that you want people to share it with their friends, and therefore the objective is visibility. So you want to try and establish some form of objective behind what it is that you're posting to ensure that there's a clear reason for that post. Otherwise, you're just posting for the sake of posting. So the objective, for example here, could be outbound clicks. How would you bring that all together? Well, simply, you would script a post, okay, that your audience finds entertaining. So I have a client, for example, who applies micro cement, which is kind of like a concrete alternative. Okay, obviously concrete being a very expensive building material. And anytime they post reels, entertaining reels about the processes behind the micro cement application, because it's satisfying, it looks pleasing when they're applying this micro cement, that in itself is going to translate into engagement, which it previously has. Okay, the format itself is a good optimized format for that particular type of entertaining post, and then the objective for that could simply just be to get people to click on the website, to get people to learn about micro cement. Micro cement you may have never heard about. So the objective for this post could be an outbound click to the website that teaches people what micro cement is. That way, you're entertaining people, you're educating people, you're giving them an objective and an actionable step to take, but also you're establishing a creative that matches what it is that you're trying to achieve. Also, you want to think about your different content pillars. Okay, so your different content pillars could be your sales-based posts. Again, you could have behind the scenes. You could have reviews on here. You can have educational content. So that could be tips. That could be showing a before and after. That could be walking through problem versus solution. Okay, so with Dominate Digital, for example, I see that most clients struggle with being able to build a compelling strategy for each individual platform, right? They just kind of post, hope for the best, that's it. But no, that's not enough, okay? I could say, in this problem versus solution, you're not getting clients because you're not establishing an objective, okay? So the problem is obviously no clients. The solution is the objective, okay? And I could do that in a format, as I said, it could be a reel, for example. It could even be an infographic. An infographic would be some sort of illustration or graph or some sort of digital visual that your audience is able to see. Okay, and this could be an infographic that people can swipe through. So it could be a carousel, a selection of posts that people, this says the problem, this says, goes or introduces the post rather. This could then be the problem. This could then be what they tried. This could then be the solution. This would then be the call to action. Okay, so with your post as well, you want to make sure that there's a clear call to action at the end of your post. So even if it's not visually, you want to do it in your caption, which is another really important component when it comes to posts on the feed. Because it's all well and good having a good post, fair enough, but what about your caption? Okay, you don't just want to write one word or one sentence. You want to be trialing different things. Trialing, testing, adjusting, and implementing different strategies and structures so you can see what works, propagate what works, and then eliminate what doesn't. So with your captions, you want to do a few things. You want to test long versus short. You want to test different writing styles. So what I mean by that is like informal, more formal. It could be sort of bullet points. So it could be just the structure in which you've written it in. Okay. You want to make sure there's a clear call to action, as we've discussed. So it could be message us for more information on X. It could be click the link in bio to completely transform your life in 30 days. See how that would instantly compel someone to be like, okay, well, I want to change my life, and they click the bio. Another thing, okay, would be for you to consider the language. Really, really important. You want to keep this simple, but you can also test niche specific language. And the reason you do that is because then you could see if people are sort of your relevant target audience based on, who's engaging and who's not. But you also want to ensure clarity. You don't want to be jumping from pillar to post. You want to be making sure that whatever topic you're covering about, there's a clear structure there, and that there's clarity as well. So that you're walking someone through, say, a story, for example. Okay, and you're keeping them engaged and making sure that there is a reason for them to keep reading. Now, I could talk endlessly about the caption because there are a lot of copywriting practices that you can implement when it comes to writing captions and writing content in general. But those are some of the ideas that you can start to test out and start to implement into your own profile so that you can see, okay, well, what is working and what are people interested in seeing. Okay, so we've talked about how to optimize your profile and how you can start generating a strategy for your feed and your content. Next, we need to discuss how you can start to engage with your audience and the ways in which you can do that productively. So the first thing to discuss is hashtags. So gone are the days of great organic reach using hashtags. Before, I used to get thousands and thousands of eyeballs with hashtags, simply just by adding hashtags to the bottom of a post. Now, unfortunately, that's fallen to hundreds. However, hundreds is better than zero. So if you're running a stagnant profile or you're starting from scratch, then this is one for you, and definitely something that you should continue to do even if you're a bit more of an established creator on the platform, because it can still help with slight organic growth. So when it comes to hashtags, there are a few best practices, although some people will claim this is what you should be doing, that's what you should be doing. Honestly, I'm not going to advise you as to what you should be doing in terms of how many you should have and what you should be using, but rather the fact that you should be considering testing as one of the most important practices when it comes to hashtags. So I like to tell my clients that when it comes to hashtags, you want large hashtags, small and medium. So medium and small. And I don't mean in terms of the character count, I mean in terms of how many posts sit within that hashtag. So any posts that have, say, upwards of 500k, okay, so it more like a million, to be honest with you, but you'll see why I wrote 500k in a sec, because medium is between 50k to 500, right? So anything that sits within, sort of outside this bracket, okay, above this bracket would be large. Anything that sort of sits below this 50k is small, so under 50k. All right, and the reason you want to do that is so that you can test how productive, okay, and how useful they are depending on the size that you're implementing. So I've heard people say, oh, you need to be using medium and small hashtags because there are less posts in there, so you're going to be more visible. And I've heard others say, no, use large hashtags because this is where the most eyeballs are at. Honestly, test out the hashtags that you're using. So use a mixture of all of these three, or alternatively, try different posts with different sized hashtags so that you can start to understand what it is that's working. However, I'm going to caveat that with something. When it comes to hashtags, if you're using the same hashtags again and again, not going to work. Okay, Instagram does not like this. I used to do this a lot and it worked for some time. And then you get no visibility all of a sudden on hashtags. So you don't want to be doing the same hashtags again and again and again. You want to be testing out different hashtags and also different sized hashtags, but also a different amount of hashtags for your posts as well. So it's a lot to kind of take in, but when it comes to hashtags, you really need to be testing to know what's working and what's not. If there's no sort of clear solution to hashtags, it's more you've got to kind of test and adjust accordingly. Okay? When it comes to hashtag research, you can use a variety of tools. So you can use the search bar within the app, or you can use third-party sites just by typing in Instagram hashtags on Google. Okay? And you just want to make kind of like a library of hashtags, as many as you possibly can that fit within these categories, but that are also targeted and related to your industry. Okay, if we take that one step further, you don't just want industry related hashtags, you also want post specific. There are so many other ways that you can break it down, but post specific, really key here, because Instagram is kind of using the information within the post, so the caption and the tags, to kind of identify what it is that photo is about. So if it's not corresponding with the photo, it's less likely to perform as well. But not only industry and post specific, you can have brand related hashtags. Okay, so for example, I use hashtag dominate online. Okay, it could be the name of your business, for example. But you can have brand hashtags. You can also have location hashtags. So again, your location hashtags are where you can start to, kind of get the audience that you want if you're within a particular location. Another way that you can do sort of target people based on location, which we didn't cover, is within your stories. So stories, you can tag your location in as well. There's a sticker for that. And within your posts, you can do something called geotagging. So geotagging isn't a hashtag. Geotagging is where you add the location to which the post is related to. So for example, if you are a trader and you're on the job, then you can put the geotag of where it is that job was completed. Okay, because what that will do is that will show other people in the area, or people who search posts by area, that you are there and that you are within that location, or that you cover that location. You can also put seasonal hashtags as well. So anything sort of related to seasons or events, or specific sort of dates in the calendar that are related to what you do. Again, you can trial that out as well. So when it comes to hashtags, there's a lot to remember. I appreciate that, but it's about large, medium, small, having a collection of all of those. Okay, not using the same hashtags throughout every single post, not using the same amount of hashtags throughout every post, but also trialing out a different range of hashtags in terms of sort of, what they are. So industry, brand, etc. But with the most important, I can't stress this enough, being the post specific hashtags. When it comes to engagement, what separates useful engagement from meaningless engagement? Well, simply put, it's the value that you're adding with your comments and with your engagement. Because you see, when you're engaging with people, you don't just want to kind of put nice post or a thumbs up or a simple emoji. You want to contribute towards that conversation, right? You want to add value to what they're saying. So you can add, for example, this is one thing I do, your own experiences based off the post or the topic of content that they're covering. Okay, you could also ask questions. Really powerful stuff. If you're asking your audience questions, when it comes to your engagement strategy, then you're actually trying to show that you have an interest in them. And again, that you're not being so self-centered in your approach, okay? And you also want to be positive. Positivity goes a long way. And if you're being positive and you're, productively contributing to that conversation by sharing your experiences or asking questions, then it shows that you're interested in what they're doing. You're not just interested in getting a sale for yourself, you're wanting to be part of something bigger, a community, which again is what Instagram's about. So using the social media platform for its intended use to be social only makes sense, right? But how do you go about engaging? So you can ask questions, share your experiences, be positive, contribute to the conversation, but how? Well, you've got comments on posts, which we've discussed, and you can find these obviously through hashtags, for example, or by typing in sort of a keyword on the search bar. Keyword on search. Alternatively, you could engage with people through story replies, interacting with their features. Yeah, so we talked earlier about how you can use polls and questions and all these different types of stickers. Well, do the same for other people. Answer those stickers. Help contribute towards that conversation that they're having, because it expresses interest. It incentivizes them to also engage back with you. And when you're starting off, that's really important because you want people to also be involved in your community. And when you're merging these communities together, you build strength in numbers, but relevant, targeted numbers, not just random people who are related to what you're doing, okay? So obviously those you follow, you can reply to their stories, okay? You can also send a DM. Sending a direct message can be really powerful because it's a more personalized way of interacting and engaging with people. You could be asking the person what the biggest issue they've had that week is. You could just be, generally being friendly. When it comes to DMs, you want to take a personable approach, and you don't want to be trying to sell to people, through sort of just a cold method of reaching out. You instead want to try to build those relationships and nurture them. That's what engagement is all about. So if you're having, sort of a bit of a strategy and a structure to the way in which you're going about it, then it's going to be a lot more productive and you're going to see a lot more results when it comes to your engagement. You can also obviously reply to comments. Really, really important. So if you're not sort of active on the platform loads, let's say you go on daily, but you only go on for half an hour, you want to be posting and then doing some of these things, okay? You can't just post and ghost, as they call it, which essentially means posting and then just going away and hoping for the best. No, you want to post and then you want to engage with people in your community, okay, by replying to their comments from your previous post, for example, and then also interacting with their stories, and then commenting on their posts, and then maybe sending a few people DMs. Now, you don't need to spend hours engaging, and this is a common misconception. You don't need to be on the platform for hours and hours and hours. You can break this down into, say, half an hour. You could spend 7.5 minutes on each 4 of these things, okay, and that's your engagement done for the day. You could do an hour if you wanted to, but ultimately the point is that as long as you're sort of executing some form of strategy and you're dedicating some time to that daily, that again will build. Growth on Instagram is honestly about consistency. It's about testing. It's about listening as well. As I said, not taking that self-centered approach, but instead that customer-centered approach. So just consider that when you're using the platform, and also analyze, which is what we're going to talk about next. Analysis is incredibly important. Analysis is the driving force to help establish that growth, and that will help you slowly snowball into social success. So what are some of the key metrics that you can cover when it comes to your insights? So one of the most important things that you could look at is the active times and days that your audience is most active. And the reason you're going to do this is because it's going to help you understand when it is that your clients and your ideal audience is online. Because ultimately, you want to be making sure that you're posting just before that peak period to ensure that you then get the most engagement you can possible within that first hour. In the first half an hour to an hour, you want to be driving as much traffic as you can to your new content, because that helps Instagram rank it. Then obviously you then show up on more feeds, etc. You also show up or have the potential of showing up on the Explore page. So that is one metric that you can consider. Okay, so what other insights should you be looking at? What other metrics are important when it comes to your insights? Well, simply put, you want to be having a look at what is known as the vanity metrics. Now, these are usually known as a useless figure, useless number. You shouldn't worry or concern yourself with these. And whilst I mostly agree from the perspective of you shouldn't be concerned too much about this, it does demonstrate how engaged and interesting your content is. So it's a really important metric to keep your eye on so that you know the type of content that your audience wants to be looking at. If a post is more highly engaged, or you have a cluster of posts that are more highly engaged and they're, say, surrounding a particular topic, or they're within a particular format, then you know that you can replicate and you can create more of those, because they're likely to perform better than the posts that have lower rates of engagement, right? So although vanity metrics are one of those things that you shouldn't be too concerned about, it's something that you do definitely want to keep your eye on. You also want to have a look at post saves. Post saves indicate a direct interest in what you're talking about. So whether it's something that was entertaining or even a product or service shot, if someone saves your post, it means they have found value behind that post and that they want to review it later. They want to come back to it. So essentially, posts that have more post saves are posts that are performing better, theoretically, right? So you want to keep your eye on that metric as well. Another metric is also in terms of the outbound clicks and the actions taken within your profile. So for example, the amount of calls that you've received, or emails, or the amount of follows you've got from a post, or the amount of outbound clicks you have. Now the reason for that is that is a direct interest in you. Okay, a follower is a direct interest in what you're doing online, but someone who phones you or emails you or clicks to your website is someone who is most likely going to be your ideal client, someone who has more of an interest in your offering. So if you're keeping an eye on these metrics, then you're able to understand, okay, well, this is working in terms of, say, for example, the call to action you're using. So therefore, you want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on these particular metrics and statistics so that you can adjust your strategy and you can kind of try to identify the reasons behind those successes. So there we go. Those are the 5 actionable steps that you could be taking to establish your Instagram profile and start to see some growth and some real results. It's all about being meaningful with what you're doing. It's all about testing, and it's all about being consistent. The biggest piece of advice I could give you would be to remain consistent. It's so cliche, but that's why I've only said it now, because I wanted to give you all that value before telling you you need to be consistent. But just be aware, this is just a drop in the ocean of what you need to be doing when it comes to your Instagram strategy or your online strategy in general. There are so many different methods and tactics that you could implement, but hopefully you found this useful and this added some form of value to your day. If you did find it useful, it would be really helpful if you could leave a like and also leave a comment below with any questions that you have that maybe I didn't manage to sort of answer throughout the duration of this video. I'd be more than happy to reply to as many as I possibly can. And if you're looking to grow your business and take things to the next level, then I suggest you click the first link in the description below, where you'll be taken to a page where you can book your free consultancy call to discuss the condition of your marketing strategy and what steps you need to take to dominate online. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again very soon.